Good morning. Welcome both here in the sanctuary and online in YouTube land to the Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. We are on the unceded ancestral lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole Native Americans. My name is Ben Atherton-Zeman. I'm the minister here. There's a lot going on this morning. I am very excited to bring you today's worship service, which is called Listen to Indian Women for a Change, along with today's worship associate, Todd Wellman.
Hey, thanks, Ben. We are a people of many beliefs. Many, I can't even count them. But we share a common faith that what we do in this world matters, and that we are connected to one another and to our planet. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your journey, you are welcome here. We have one announcement, the sheet in your order of service. Join the Stormy Weather Remix coming this Saturday, December 3rd from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Rumor has it that it may rain, but the UUSP forecast says, it's raining men, hallelujah, it's raining men, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go out and run and absolutely get soaking wet. Good, that's good, that's good, that's good. That's right. If you couldn't guess, it is a potluck dinner and party to celebrate making it through hurricane season 2022. There will be a required sign-up sheet during coffee hour in Gilmore. Please RSVP by this Thursday if you don't sign up today, so that we can plan accordingly, and again, RSVPs are required.
Thank you so much, Todd, and thank you, hurricane refugee dancers. If this is your first time here, yes, we always do it like this. I do want to give a special welcome to any newcomers. If you want a church where we believe that Black lives matter, that love makes a family, and that climate change is real, I have good news. You may have found your church home. So if you are new or relatively new to UU St. Pete, can you just give a wave? I've seen some of you hello waving people. And if you like, you can stand and introduce yourself, but you are on no obligation to do so, because that's terrifying for some people. And then I will try to repeat what you said as best I can so that those in YouTube land can hear it. Does anyone want to do that? Yeah, please. Welcome, welcome. And it's Jenna? Was it Jenna? Oh, Jessica. And so Jessica from the East Coast of Florida, I guess. Oh, near Daytona. But now living in Pinellas Park. Welcome. Where apparently the pagans and the UUs don't mix, but here the UUs are the pagans, at least the minister is. All faiths, so too many to count. And paganism is one of them. Others, welcome, Jessica. All right. Our music today is by John Arterton and Aaron Cassette and the UU St. Pete Bell Ringer Choir. Pretty exciting. Rob Wallace and Kelly Olson, James Mack are live streaming and running the soundboard. Our greeters are Karen White, Linda Paul, Peter Elam, Patty Kane Wood, and Ann Freistadt. The bell was rung by Johanna Zeman, and the slide portion of the reflection, the slides are being run by Lucinda Zeman. Thank you all for silencing your cell phones. Masks, as you can see, are now optional in our sanctuary. Let's take a moment to greet your neighbor, and remember to ask for consent if you're gonna shake their hand or anything. I think we light the chalice first.
No.
We light the chalice after. We light the chalice after.
Just like the car. Well, this is our debut for first time in 3 years, so be kind. And we have 2 rookies joining us. Be very kind.
When Rowan and Reverend Ben light our chalice, I invite you to say our covenant out loud. For those on YouTube, the words can be found in the text chat. Feel free to follow along with the 2 hand movements. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now please rise as you're willing and able for our first hymn, When the Spirit Says Do. It's number 1024 in the teal hymnal. That's 1024 in the teal hymnal.
But most of you probably don't actually need to open your hymnals, because I'm going to feed you the words. You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to sing when the Spirit... Oh, I should have been, you got to ring when the Spirit says ring. And you got to dance. Anyway, have fun. You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 You You gotta ring when the Spirit says ring. You gotta ring when the Spirit says ring. When the Spirit says ring, you gotta ring. Oh Lord, you gotta ring when the Spirit says ring. Spirit says do, Spirit says do, Spirit says do, Spirit says do, Spirit says ring, Spirit says ring. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance, oh Lord. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. Spirit says dance, 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 Spirit says dance. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do, oh Lord. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. Spirit says do, 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 Spirit says do. Do. Oh yes, Lord.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, John. Thank you, Aaron. Our time for all ages, the kids will be remaining in your seats with your parents because we have a brand new story written by our very own Todd. So if the Sandwich Fish players can make their way to the front of the, where are the Sandwich Fish players? The Sandwich Fish players. I did not expect this. Yeah. Our players today are Janae Johnson. Yes, it's Janae Johnson. As both King and King the Third. Jade as the girl. Me as the narrator. And Trish as the actions of everyone else. So it was a ho-hum Tuesday with a dreary sky that definitely did not hold a rainbow when King of Sandwich Fish announced an idea. Now, his advisors scrambled to find their quills. They're scrambling and finding the quills. And the king did not normally have ideas before Thursdays and never on such a gloomy day.
Write this down. From henceforth, sandwiches are bound in Sandwichville.
Sandwiches are banned in Sandwich Fish. Simultaneously, the advisors blinked, paused in their writing. Banned forever? An advisor asked. So we just call our town Fish? Another said.
Forever, and don't be silly about our town's name.
Another advisor shuffled forward and said, and if someone asks why we're banning sandwiches, what should we say?
I don't blame you for asking. Proves my point, really. You grew up on the sandwich side of town, but everyone who likes me grew up on the fish side of town already knows fish is much more civilized. Much more civilized. It's much more civilized than sandwiches. So you tell the people that we must make sacrifices to ensure that everyone progresses.
Well, the years passed, and the fish side of town kept up their wonderful fish shops, but in the sandwich side of town, the wind dashed through empty restaurants. Some sandwichers were pretty financially okay, so they traveled to the fish side of town and ate at the fish shops. They sometimes would stumble as they traveled and maybe drop their glasses and they had to pick them up, but they then would make to the fish shops and then they would have their fine meals. But most sandwichers stood in the kingdom's new fish lines. And each day one person from the family picked up the daily fish. And sometimes a younger person would ask, why do we have fish lines? And an older person might say, because King saw that we sandwichers couldn't afford fish. So to help us stay fed, he set up a way to get us food. Now more years passed and King died. His son Long live the king. His son, King Jr., who looked a lot like King, ruled, and it was a wonderful long reign, and then he died. So then King III, who again looked a lot like his grandfather, began his reign. And it was on a bleak Wednesday with a soupy sky that didn't have any animal-shaped clouds that King III announced an idea. So the advisors ran over with their pens. They knocked into each other, and some of them didn't have a pen, so they had to use a seagull. But they made it work. King III had never sprung an idea before a Friday, and never on such a blah sort of day.
I'm tired of how much it costs to give the sandwichers fish in our fish lines. What if we taught the sandwichers how to fish?
Well, that would save us money, an advisor said. Another advisor said, the sandwichers side of town has no ponds. Where would they fish? And what about all the money the fishers count on that we use to buy the fish from them for the fish lines?
With the money. We can loan the money to the sandwichers. They'll take that money and go to fishing school on the fishing side of town. That way the fishers still earn the money, just in a different way.
A third advisor inched forward and said, what if sandwichers don't like to fish or don't want to borrow money?
Let's see. Go make a sandwich.
Go make a sandwich. The advisors gasped in unison. King III had just uttered the rudest phrase in all of sandwich fish.
You're right. I got upset. I did not mean to come off that way. I shouldn't have said that, but the truth is, if people don't want to work hard, then they must not eat. See, if you give a man a fish, he will eat for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime.
So, within weeks, all the fish lines had vanished, and the fish schools had opened. As invited to, the sandwichers borrowed money from the kingdom and paid fishers to teach them how to fish and also how to pantomime. Some sandwichers were not very good at fishing, but they tried their best, and some other sandwichers found the distance across town too difficult to travel. So while they paid for fishing classes with the money they borrowed, they didn't attend very many of those classes. Unfortunately, this last group of sandwichers tend to fail school, so no one would hire them for fishing jobs, and they were reduced to such jobs as sweeping or cleaning windows or even blowing up animal balloons. One sandwicher like this said, without a job, sire, without a job, I can't repay my fishing school loan.
Well, then you shall work without pay at the fishing docks.
This went on for quite some time. And one day, a young sandwicher was moping in the library. She complained that she'd already read all the books. The librarian said, have you read any of the books in the ancient room?
Those are ancient.
Yes, the librarian said, they are. But that means they're full of ancient ideas, too. So with no other option, the young sandwicher read and read ancient books. She thought the books were pretty okay. They were books, after all. After a couple of weeks, she took down a particularly tattered book with a dirty cover. Wanting to know what it read, she and the librarian carefully cleaned the cover of the book with a squeegee and a mop and, strangely, a three-cornered hat, which proved particularly effective. All right, not a three-cornered hat. Finally, they revealed the title of the book, Cookbook for Sandwiches.
Eek!
The young sandwicher dropped the book. Everyone knew that a sandwich was the worst thing of all, and here was a book on how to make them. The librarian said, I know it's not a word we use often, but do you even know what the word sandwich means?
It means shorthand for sandwicher, or a rude way to shorten our town name and leave out fish.
Well, maybe today those are true, the librarian said, but a sandwich used to be what sandwichers served in the restaurants on their side of town. The librarian opened the book to a page entitled, Your First Sandwich. The young sandwicher recognized 2 of the ingredients, field butter and strawberries, but she didn't know the third, bread.
What's bread?
The librarian pulled a different book out from behind the big librarian desk. This one was called Cookbook for Bread. The young sandwicher read from the second book, and her eyes grew wide.
But the ingredients for bread are all the weeds that grow on sandwich side of town.
For weeks, the young sandwicher visited the library to study the 2 books. She brought a stack of paper, some pencils, and she had an assistant monkey help her carry the pencils. She wrote and wrote and wrote. One morning, the sky beaming with at least 2 rainbows, maybe 3 if you looked up at just the right time, along with a dozen animal-shaped clouds. Every house woke up or returned home to, if people did the night shift, a piece of paper affixed to the front door. The title was The Truth About Our Weeds. Some people gulped, others whispered excitedly. Still more marched together to see King the Third. Along with this third group stomped the young sandwicher from the library. After days of people camping out at the castle, King the Third appeared for the crowd.
What's this noise about weeds?
Everyone in the group kind of looked at each other, not knowing who should speak. Someone started forming a committee to decide if they should have a committee on who should speak. And amongst all this, the young sandwicher ran forward.
The weeds are food.
What?
Long ago, we sandwichers were taught that the plants on our side of town were weeds. But now we know we can harvest them to make bread. And then place one piece of bread on a plate, put stuff on that plate, and then cover that stuff up with another piece of bread.
Oh, go make a sandwich.
Oh, exactly.
Okay, you got me there. You got me there. But what of the fish side of town? They rely on the fish economy. In fact, we all do in some way.
And then the young sandwicher threw back her shoulders. Like the hottest sun being invented in her chest, she stood even taller and said,
Allow a sandwicher only fish. They eat for a day, but learn what someone may do and support them. They should be better at eating for a lifetime.
But where would we even begin?
2 words, fish, sandwich.
As the years passed, arguments were extensive about do we forgive the money the sandwichers had borrowed to pay for fish school, observing an official sandwich observance day, encouraging sandwichers to still eat fish if they wanted to, and putting money into the sandwich side of town. To this day, well after even King the Fourth had ruled, the residents of Sandwich Fish are still deciding what's best to do. Still, visitors from other towns continue to flock to Sandwich Fish for the culinary masterpiece of the entire region, the fish sandwich. Thank you, players. Thank you, Todd, for writing this amazing story. Well done. Thank you, Chris. Before we sing the children out to their classes, I'm going to bump one Joy up to this, and because I believe it is Gigi's birthday today. So happy birthday, Gigi. If someone could put a stone in the thing, that is our first Joy. I'm glad you were born this week, Gigi. Let us sing the children out to their classes. Go now in peace, go now in peace.
May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Now we come to the time for the rest of the joys, sorrows, and concerns. Now those of you on YouTube Live, please write your joys and sorrows in the text chat, and those of you here in person, you may have already filled out a card in front of you. If so, you can wave it in the air and hopefully someone will come get it, or maybe you can come bring it up to us or something. I see one in the back there. William will place a stone in the water for each one that was submitted this week.
From Vonda Hughes, a stone of joy. Her son Alex has just gotten engaged to his partner Jenna.
Congratulations to everyone. From Danny Bly, hi Danny, a stone of joy. Danny says, I'm so grateful to my partner for the beautiful relationship we've built and that we are able to grow alongside one another with openness and love. Congratulations to you both.
A stone of concern from Debbie Polis Carter. Her friend Shannon lives in Jakarta, Indonesia, with his wife and family. Debbie has not been able to reach him to find out if they were impacted by the earthquake there. Please send love and light to them.
A stone of sorrow from Lucinda and my friends Crystal and Justine. They lost their father this week. Their dad died peacefully with Justine, Crystal, and their mother by his side, but it is going to be a long journey for them in the healing process.
A stone of joy from Janae Johnson. It's Miss Trish's birthday today.
She's already
left.
left.
Snuck out on purpose.
Wish her. I should have done that one first too. A stone of concern from me. My first UU minister in Charleston, West Virginia, Reverend Richard Nugent, was diagnosed with esophageal cancer this week. So please join me in sending him love and healing energy.
I'm gonna do that a lot today. My apologies. A stone of sorrow from Ryan Richardson. His friend Lincoln William Statler lost his mother Janet this week.
Stone of concern for several members of our congregation who tested positive for COVID recently, and some of you are watching from home, some asymptomatic and some with symptoms. Blessings to all of you.
And another stone for Ryan Richardson, wishing him a safe flight and week in Atlanta.
Stone of joy from Jeff Bambro. Emma and Chris's wedding ceremony in our sanctuary happened yesterday. It was a wonderful event and an opportunity for more folks to experience our beautiful church, and we have some vestiges, I think. One of these flowers.
And Linda, I can't quite read the name of the topic. Thank you so much. From Linda Paul, USP member Arndt Monge is home recuperating from a series of health issues. He welcomes short visits, and we have a meal train set up.
From James and John, a stone of concern for a dear friend who was just diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. Please pray.
And a stone of sorrow from Basha for the sudden death of my sister 1 year ago.
Oh, Bianca's back. Hi. A stone of joy from Bianca Hatton. I have returned from Spain after receiving affordable Spanish health care. Please continue to send me light and love as I heal and recover. The treatment I received has restored my hope, and I look forward to a day when U.S. residents can get affordable/universal health care. Welcome back, Bianca.
Finally, 5 stones of sorrow for the 5 victims of the mass shooting in Colorado Springs. Kelly Loving,
Daniel Aston,
Derek Rump,
Ashley Paw,
and Raymond Green Vance.
May we bring to mind and hold close to our hearts Richard Nugent, Bianca Hatton, James John's friend, everyone known and unknown who are facing health concerns, and may we also continue working, as Bianca put it, for universal health care in this nation, so no one need worry about the financial burden in receiving needed health care. May all who are facing challenges find a comforting presence in the warmth of fellowship and community. And we'll place a final stone, William. A final stone for those joys and concerns that remain in our hearts, perhaps too tender to be spoken yet aloud. We know the mystery is that we are connected even when we feel apart. So let us rejoice in the beloved community that makes of the many one. So may it be. This week, before we sing Spirit of Life, the worship team suggested we try having an entire minute of silence. So since we come from a variety of spiritual beliefs, you can use this time for prayer, you can use it for meditation, or simply to be silent with others around you.
Good morning. I thought that since Ben was going to be talking about his 3-week trip to India, that we would try some Indian chanting. This is called kirtan chanting, and I'm playing what they call a harmonium. It's a little manually pumped organ that you've frequently found in kirtan chanting, and you'd also find on shipboard because it was so portable back in the day. I'm very grateful to my friend Melanie for lending me her harmonium. These chants do come from the Hindu tradition in India. The text is in Sanskrit. This particular chant praises the love between Sita and Rama, a male and a female god who have come together to make the world a peaceful place. This is a call and response form, so I will sing a phrase and you will hopefully sing it back to me. And the words are in your program, which may help a little, but not much. Shri Ram Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Now you. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai 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 Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Thank you. How are the slides? Let's go. Our theme for November was change. And we began with a worship service on voting, then on racial justice, then last week decolonizing Thanksgiving, and finally this worship service is entitled Listening to Indian Women for a Change. The title's borrowed from a bumper sticker some of you might be familiar with from the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. It says, "Listen to Women for a Change." I learned of this bumper sticker from my friend Julia on the Great Peace March across the United States in 1986. Maybe Julia's listening. I recently made a post on Facebook that simply said, "Men, let's listen to women for a change." Seemed an easy enough ask, but several men responded, "Well, actually, we shouldn't listen to all women. What about Margaret Thatcher? Why are you making such sweeping generalizations that all women should be listened to, etc., etc.?" Much to the fury of my feminist Facebook friends. Now, our theology as Unitarian Universalists Universalist asks us to listen to center, and to lift up those on the margins. In this culture, that's women, non-binary people, black people, indigenous people, people of color, LGBTQIA plus people, disabled people, people from the global south, and others. That's not saying that cisgender white males don't have anything important to say. Don't write me. It just means we're correcting this historical imbalance where white cisgender males like myself have had our words amplified by systems and rewards and punishments, and others have not. And so towards that end, and since I just came back from Nepal and India, I bring you stories of 3 women from India. I traveled there with 3 weeks with my friend Sandy Perpignani, who is tuning in from Chicago. Hi, Sandy. I first met Shivani, and you're going to see pictures of them, and hopefully they'll appear on the YouTube live too, but this is Shivani, and I first met her when she was 13. I was in New Delhi. I was walking from my hotel to do some shopping, and she ran beside me. She had all of her necklaces on her arm, and she was trying to sell me the necklaces, and she had this sort of bob and weave thing where when there was like a lamp post, she'd like dodge around it but keep near me. I was trying to ignore her, but she was persistent, she was articulate, she was also adorable. So I was like, fine, I'll buy some of your necklaces. They were about 50 rupees a piece, which is about 75 cents. Now later that night, I was carrying heavy things, and it was about 1,000 degrees and 1,000% humidity. I ran into her and her brother. So they helped me with the heavy packages. And then several years later, I was in New Delhi and at a conference, and I was telling my friends about this girl who had pestered me and who was just so cool. And then there she was. She appeared yet again. This time she was a mother, pregnant with her second child, and married. She'd gotten married at age 15 to a man who sold socks for a living. And then finally this past month, I sought out Shivani, where I knew she would probably be, found her. I took her and her cousins out to dinner, encouraging her to choose the place she wanted to eat, which for her was Kentucky Fried Chicken. This time, Shivani told us she wasn't living with her husband anymore. She was living with her mother. She told me her husband spends their meager earnings drinking alcohol. Now, Shivani can neither read nor write, but she is sending her 2 kids to school to learn to read and write. And as you might imagine, communicating in between visits with somebody who can neither read nor write is tricky, but we are now friends on WhatsApp. She taught me how to do WhatsApp, and so we can communicate via video chat in the early morning or late night, or by leaving voice messages for one another, since she's usually asleep while I'm awake. Shivani has met both Lucinda and my mom, Johanna, through those video chats. Now, the next 2 women I will introduce you to are named Geeta and Neetu, and they are acid attack survivors, so their faces are covered in scars from when they were attacked by Geeta's husband, who is also Neetu's father. I just wanted to let you know in advance, since the sight of their faces might be triggering, especially to those who have suffered and who are survivors of male violence. So Geeta is Neetu's mother. They both work at the Shiro's Hangout. Instead of Heroes, it's Shiro's in Agra, India. And I met them also in 2014, the first few weeks that the cafe was open. I was supporting its opening. And the cafe is run by survivors of acid attacks. The group works not just to stop acid attacks, but also to redefine Indian standards of beauty. Previously, survivors of acid attacks were encouraged to cover their faces out in public by their family members who wanted to avoid embarrassment. But my survivor friends refused to cover their faces, saying it's the attackers who'd be ashamed and not them. One of their first events was a fashion show where the survivors themselves were the models. So I had visited this cafe several times, but I've never been to Geeta and Neetu's apartment for lunch, and I was thrilled that they invited me. Geeta knew that I was gluten-free and dairy-free, so she made special preparations to make me a delicious and huge lunch of rice, potatoes, peas, and spices in their very, very small apartment. Now, while Gita was cooking, I did a Facebook Live interview with Neetu, which some of you might have seen. And in the interview, Neetu spoke of her desire to open up her own cafe. And she said also that the acid hurt her eyes and her face, but not her courage or her spirit. After dinner, Neetu introduced me to her favorite dessert, which is now my favorite dessert. It is called, and maybe my mother's favorite dessert, it's called Kaju Katli. It's made with sweet cashew paste. There's a short documentary about this family made by an Australian filmmaker, and the film is called Gita. This week, Neetu is testifying remotely before the Australian Parliament in attempt to urge them to pass laws making acid attacks a hate crime. I haven't seen the film yet, but I hope it will be screened here in the United States, maybe here in this very congregation. The film tells about this man's actions that you see in the picture, Gita's husband and Neetu's dad. It tells about how he poured acid onto his wife and his children while they were asleep. And it tells about the fact that they still live with him, partly due to having no better economic options. So yes, I met him too, this time. Why am I telling you this? I mean, it's probably enough reason that their stories are heard, that you listen to them and you learn about their lives, but there's actually another reason. It might be enough that your heart is stirred to compassion for their plight, like mine was, and that you do what you do to make their lives better, but that's actually not the reason. There's another reason. It might be enough that you are inspired by their determination, their example, despite their current circumstances. Shivani wanting her kids to have the schooling that she never got, Neetu wanting to open the cafe, Gita wanting to take the film internationally. But there's another reason. It might be enough that they're from the margins, that they're female, poor, from the global south, acid attack survivors. But there is another reason. The reason I'm telling you about these three and showing their pictures is theological. It's based on our seventh principle. I'm trying to bring these women's lives to life for you in order to dispel the illusion that we are somehow separate. Our seventh principle urges us to respect the interdependent web of which we are a part. And now that you know all three of these women, even just a little, it's harder to ignore them. It's harder to see them as simply two-dimensional objects of pity, harder to see them as other. And if you're feeling connected, and you're being connected to three women on the other side of the globe, imagine how connected you can be and feel to the other people in this room and in our denomination. We just had Thanksgiving in that room, 40 or 50 of us. Many families came together in love and support. But for some on the margins, especially LGBTQIA+ people, Thanksgiving can be an unsafe holiday. For some, families are where they are mocked, belittled, criticized. Some have been kicked out of their families for being gay or trans. And for some, families are a source of harm rather than safety. So there we were in that room on Thanksgiving Day, celebrating with what might be termed our family of choice. It was a beautiful meal. Many of you were there. Kevin, many others worked to make the evening a memorable one. And for me, it was a wonderful example of this church community doing our work. An example of the kind of community and safety we can make with people we might not be related to. You all know last week a young man shot and killed 5 people at an LGBTQIA+ nightclub in Colorado Springs. The death toll would have been worse if not for the actions of Richard Fierro, who subdued the gunman along with Thomas James. A lot of you have seen interviews with Fierro. He owns a microbrewery. He was there with his wife Jessica and their daughter's boyfriend Raymond Green Vance, who was killed by the shooter that night. In a news conference, Fierro said that, quote, "I'm not a hero, I'm just some dude." Fierro said he wanted to protect the close-knit community inside that club. That, quote, "I needed to save my family. And my family," he said, "was at that time everybody in that room." I'll say that again. My family was at that time everybody in that room. Theology can either separate us or bring us together, either reinforce our interconnectedness or undermine it, either value both sandwiches and fish, or privilege one over the other. And there are those, including some of my colleagues in the pulpit, who repeat harmful myths and bad theology. LGBTQIA+ people are monsters in league with Satan, coming for your children. We'll kick out the kids in our school if we find out they're gay or trans. And these same people, following the shooting in Colorado, say, who could have predicted a tragedy like this? But our denomination doesn't just welcome LGBTQIA+ people. Our leaders and our ministers are from those communities, specifically your minister and many of your leaders are from that community, those communities. But even if we weren't, our theology is one of interconnectedness, not separation. And how we are interconnected is just as important. Our seventh principle begins with the word respect. And you've heard me quote the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Well, in King's garment, we are both the cloth and the weavers. We must weave with compassion, with justice, and by centering those on the margins. I felt that weave on Thanksgiving night in that room. Frankly, this morning I'm feeling it again. My family was at that time everybody in that room. Here at UU St. Pete, we unapologetically side with love, side with the LGBTQIA community, side with those on the margins. And we have an epidemic of gun violence, homophobia, transphobia, poverty, white supremacy, not to mention restrictions on people who have uteruses. The women's advocacy movement of Pinellas County tonight is holding an abortion clinic defense training. It's on Zoom at 7 p.m. See me if you're interested. We have important, essential work to do. And the only way we'll do it well is to do it together. So in a minute, the collection plates will come around. And Lucinda and someone else, and who? And Ellie. Oh, and Kelly. Lucinda and Kelly will be bringing around gifts that I have brought you from India. A necklace, like one of these necklaces that Shivani made and that I purchased. And also a portrait of an acid attack survivor. Neetu is one of the women portrayed, and others as well who work at that cafe. Please take one, wear the necklace, or put it on some place in your house, and think of your connection to these women, to those of us in the room, and to our wider denomination. And if you're feeling connected to three women on the other side of the planet and to a microbrewery owner from Colorado Springs, again, just imagine how interconnected you can be, you can feel to the people in this room. My family was at that time everybody in that room. I'm going to be with you for a third year. Imagine the work. So imagine the work we can get done together. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be.
Now we're going to sing Raghupati. You don't have to roll your R's, I just can't help it. This song was a favorite of Mahatma Gandhi, and in 1930 he led a group of his followers on a 240-mile walk as a protest to the British rule, and the British were imposing a tax on salt, which is very important because it keeps goods and meat fresh. Thank you for helping me. It's kind of like the Indian version of the Boston Tea Party. So same kind of format. This is call and response. Raghupati Raga Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Everybody. Raghupati Raga Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Raghupati Raga Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Raghupati Raga Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Sitaram Jai Sitaram 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 Patita Pavana Sitaram. Raghupati Raga Rajaram 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 Patita Pavana Sitaram. Sitaram Jai Sitaram 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 Patita Pavana Sitaram. Raghupati Raja Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Raghupati Raga Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Sitaram Jai Sitaram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Sitaram Jai Sitaram Patita Pavana Sitaram. patera gara jara patita pavana sita ra.
Now let us remember our connection to one another, and let us not forget our contributions to support the means to those connections. If you're online, you may give in the Giving tab at uustpete.org. In the sanctuary, the offering will now be given and received.
The necklaces and the two gifts will be available afterwards at coffee hour. It's a lot of pressure to choose your necklace when it's just going by. And I know we're a little over the magic hour of 11:30, so thank you for your patience as Todd and I finish up with this benediction before we extinguish our chalice. It was written by Reverend Ashley Horan, who is the Side with Love Organizing Strategy Director. To our beloved trans and queer family, if your heart is broken, we weep with you. May you sense how fiercely you are held in love.
If your fists are frozen in rage, we scream our fury alongside you. May you be warmed by the white-hot heat of our righteous solidarity.
If your stomach drops with terror, we tremble with you. May you feel the strength of the safety we wrap around one another.
If your bones are weary, we sink down next to you. May deep rest be the companion of your grief.
And beloveds, remember, all of us, the high femmes, the fairies, the twinks, the gender transgressors, the pan-romantics,
those who call themselves the dykes, the bears, the studs, the butches, the homos, the androgynous,
those that call themselves the aces, the demi-boys, the zaddies, the gray sexuals, the baby queers.
All the delicious, unexpected, gorgeously beloved incarnations of us.
We are made from stardust and leather and honey and love.
Even on the todays, the mornings when mourning our dead and fearing for our lives is the metallic aftertaste on our tongues.
We still dance because the surging electric life force that loved us into being and that pulses through our veins is too powerful to stay inert and unmoving.
How could we be still? We still sing because the defiant hymns of our ancestors reverberate in the tiniest interstices between ourselves.
How can we keep from singing? We still congregate because, like root systems and constellations and watersheds, the molecules of our being, only make sense when we are intertwined and inseparable and powerfully free in our interdependence.
How could we do other than to claim and choose each other every day? We dance our resistance.
We sing our belovedness.
We gather each other up, and we do not let go.
As is our vow today and all days, we will mourn the dead and fight like hell for the living.
And all the while, we will repeat the truth till it is lodged in our bones and undisputed anywhere.
We were meant for life, for abundance, for freedom.
We were made for joy.
Amen. Ashe. Blessed be. Yea is right. Now, feel free to follow along with the hand gestures as Earl extinguishes our chalice. The words to the chalice extinguishing are in your order of service. Online, they are in the text chat. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Go in peace. Lucinda says we ran out of necklaces. Sorry.